Hello and welcome to Weird Around Illinois. One thing that often comes up among people who see cryptids or UFOs or ghosts is the repeated encounter, and the idea that maybe once someone sees these things one time, they're more prone to see them again in the future. So we'd like to talk about that, and let's get weird. There are two types of witnesses that I've seen on the various cryptid shows and the various articles and YouTube videos and everything else. You got the first witness who sees a cryptid one time in their life, and it's a life-changing event, but it never happens again. And it just becomes that story that they tell, whenever they get friends together. It was 1979 and I saw the Bigfoot. I was driving over a bridge.
Yeah, when it's Thanksgiving dinner and you have to tell a story to your grandkids or something.
Yeah. And most people don't want to hear it, but there's always the one person, come on, Grandpa, tell us about Bigfoot again.
Yeah.
But then there's that second group of witnesses. And I've seen them many times on the shows. We've exchanged messages with one guy where it just feels like after they have that first sighting, the floodgates open. And suddenly, whether it's seeing the same thing over and over again, or suddenly seeing all different types of strange phenomenon, it just feels like their life has changed in a way that they're now encountering these things on a regular basis.
Yeah, they feel like it's following them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, even if they want to get away from it, they can't. So, this is important to us, at least to me. I assume it's important to you guys too, because it feels like we've been having more encounters. I know, we always used to complain about the fact that we're out there searching several times a month and we're never finding anything, but when I look back now, we had a pretty good ghost sound in Galena. We heard some weird things out in the woods at various times, looking for Dogman or looking for Bigfoot. We've definitely had some strange encounters in the sky, possible UFOs. So it makes me wonder, are these things increasing in frequency with us? And if so, is it because of, one of these possible reasons that we're going to talk about for, kind of your life opening up to the paranormal? Or is it just that, perception? It's not really happening that way. We're just thinking it's happening that way. I guess the first question I should ask you guys is, do you even think this is a thing?
Yeah, I think so. I will say that our encounters have been gradually increasing. It's not like suddenly, like multiple things happen at once. It's like, every few months it might happen where we see something unusual or unexplainable. But yeah, maybe eventually we'll see something truly like next level, like a Dogman staring right at us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really wasn't until we started looking for these things that we started encountering stuff, really.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, we don't go on investigations like, every week. It's like every once in a while. I'm sure if we were to go to different places more commonly, there might be a chance of us seeing more.
Yeah.
And like a faster increase.
Yeah, and I guess part of my perception that the encounters are increasing might also be because we're getting better at it. I think we've got better equipment, we've had more training, we know what to look for, we know where to go. When we started this, all we knew was basically what we'd seen on a couple TV shows and read in a couple books. Since then, we've been really dedicated, and our knowledge base seems to increase every week, both from, studying, practicing, and interacting with people, who contact us through the site. Okay, so accepting that this is a real phenomenon, that, maybe not even, let's exclude us. Let's talk about the other witnesses who, they legitimately have this huge increase in sightings after their first one. If we accept that that's actually happening, and I think it is in some cases, what might cause this to happen?
It's possible that there's just more like fraud, more, I guess, fake encounters, you could say. People start pranking people more and more as they see if they're getting attention.
Yeah, that could be two types of fraud. It could be the guy legitimately sees a Dogman, posts it on his YouTube channel, and suddenly gets 10,000 likes, and he's like, oh crap, I gotta keep it up. And so suddenly he's legitimately seeing Dogman every week so that he can keep getting those 10,000 likes.
Yeah.
Or the other type is what you were describing, where he sees Bigfoot and it's a life-changing event, and he tells his friends, and now his friends are all dressed in Bigfoot suits and popping out from behind every building.
Yeah, then when that happens, it overwhelms the internet to where you can't find a real encounter properly.
Right.
Yeah. And then another reason why it could happen is you might just be getting a more open mind. You might be getting more open-minded about like these creatures or whatever possibly existing.
Yeah, and we talked about that a lot with ghosts. The idea that children see ghosts more than adults do. And the reason is because they haven't had, decades of people telling them that these things don't exist. So there's not that logic barrier in their brain that's filtering what they see and saying, oh, that's not a ghost. That's just a dust bunny, or that's a trick of the light.
A bunch of coats on a hanger.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas maybe the first time you actually see that ghost and you're sure it's a ghost, then suddenly that logic barrier just gets shattered. And suddenly you're seeing everything differently.
Also, another reason why it could happen is you could be just more enthusiastic about seeing these things. And like we were saying earlier, people might go out of their way to start looking for these things.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of areas where these things have been seen, so it's not hard to go looking for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you come across one thing that's super exciting and new to you that you normally don't see, you're going to want to come back to it and have the same or a similar experience. Maybe not as scary.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I remember someone told me once that the best way to avoid becoming a gambling addict is to never hit a jackpot. And that's kind of what happens when you see a Bigfoot or a Dogman. You hit the jackpot, and then suddenly you keep wanting to go back and doing more and more and more.
Yeah.
But there's a different type of enthusiasm too. It's kind of a bad enthusiasm. It's the type that kind of warps your perspective and makes you see things that aren't there. You get so excited about what you saw that suddenly everything looks like a Bigfoot or everything looks like a UFO. As an example, I'll give you a classic example of what, in my opinion, is bad enthusiasm. There was a guy who was taught CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and he goes back to his trainer a week later, and turned out he had this miraculous save. The place where he worked, he had performed CPR on this guy and saved his life. And the trainer was so happy and so proud of him. Then he came back a week later and said he had another one. I was like, wow, that's unusual. Some people only do that once in their life, if at all. The next week he had another one. And the next week he had another one. And so finally the trainer checked in on these people he'd performed CPR on, and it turned out most of these people weren't really going into cardiac arrest. Some of them had fallen asleep. Some of them had just tripped and fallen on the ground. And this guy, he had gained so much respect and fame and just felt so good having saved that first person that he became convinced that every single person who went down needed CPR. So
it's like borderline hallucinations. In a way.
Exactly. I could very easily see that happening with cryptids.
Yeah, I could imagine people would feel like the need to find those things.
Mm-hmm.
After they see some cryptid, for example,
Yeah.
they'll be like, no, I gotta find this again. I can't just live my life not knowing what these things are.
And we see some examples of the bad enthusiasm in the Bigfoot shows too, where I know we've seen, particularly on the lower quality Bigfoot shows, where they see like 3 sticks in a teepee shape, and they're like, that's a Bigfoot sign right there. So he's doing a tree structure.
Yeah, like one tree fell on like 2 others.
Right.
Looked like a certain shape. But
Yeah, and we're like, no, that's called a falling tree. That's not Bigfoot structure.
yeah. Apparently, it almost seems like sometimes when somebody has a cryptid encounter of some kind, it's almost like the cryptid literally give them the stamp of approval, like, yeah, I can trust you. I'm gonna come back to you someday and greet you, or something like that. But it seems as if the cryptid kind of comes back to the certain person if they've seen them once. It seems like a recurring thing.
Yeah, it's like whatever changes in them, whether it's their brain chemistry or whether they just like recognize their face or whatever. It's like suddenly they're okay, and it's like the not just the cryptid that he saw, but it's like all cryptids suddenly see this person and say, oh, okay, he's one of us now. We can reveal ourselves to him.
Yeah, and that could be how, you get more cryptid sightings.
And I've heard like a lot of people, for Dogman in particular, like when people encounter Dogman, they'll see the Dogman tries to get away from them instead of just attacking them. And it's like they're almost scared of the person.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I've certainly heard the reverse too.
Yeah.
And then you've got those other cases where it seems like Dogman almost like latches on to someone. And like next thing you know, he's always outside their house at night. He follows them home and follows them to work and everything. It's kind of like having a stray dog, I guess.
Yeah. I remember I think it was the Dogman Encounters website. There's actually an encounter, I can't remember where, but essentially a Dogman kept coming back to one particular house. And like the person inside can see the Dogman through the window multiple times. And that's a prime example of like the OK stamp.
Yeah. And certainly we've heard that too with alien visitations. People who claim to have been visited by aliens. Of course, there you've also got the argument that maybe the aliens abducted them and put a chip in them and are checking back to see how their experiment's going and everything else.
It's like, okay, this one's good for sale. Let's go check in every month.
This one's not ripe yet. I guess. We talked a little bit about, changes in brain chemistry and, just recognizing someone, but, there could be other changes too, right?
Yeah, just a change in energy or aura. I mean, that could be perceived in a few different ways. When you say aura, I think of luck, in a sense. Like a way of making things more common or like better chances of doing something or seeing something. And in this case, it would be like seeing cryptids of some kind, and that would go with raising the chances.
Yeah, I could see that. And, when I think of like energy or aura, I think of, the more metaphysical idea that there's this energy field that surrounds us and that maybe a sensitive being like a cryptid or an alien or a ghost could read that and determine, hey, this person's okay, that person's not okay. Yeah. But using, even the luck interpretation of it, you think about, I often make the comparison between cryptid hunting and fishing. What we're talking about today fits perfectly in fishing too, because it seems sometimes like after you catch that first fish, after you've had like the deadest day ever, suddenly you're catching one right after the other after the other. And, there are more explanations for it in fishing than there are in cryptid hunting. But, one possible explanation is what you were just talking about, that sudden luck change. Like your entire demeanor changes. You're no longer, walking around grumbling saying, I'm never going to find anything. Suddenly it's like, wow, these things are here and I can catch them,
Yeah. It could change really fast.
Yeah.
Do we have any other thoughts?
No, I think we've covered a lot. I mean, can you guys think of any other reasons why there would be this kind of attachment, this recurrence of finding cryptids or aliens or ghosts?
Well, I suppose it's possible cryptids and ghosts and whatever else could maybe sense the energy in people, if they're good or not, if they're aggressive or not. Maybe that's what makes them decide if they want to attack them or just leave them with peace or whatever.
Yeah, I could see that. That, again, kind of goes back to the aura and energy thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that I guess I should mention is just the idea of maybe you find their spot. If you find Dogman and you come back to the same spot where you found Dogman and he's there again, then, that's just, finding out where he lives.
Yeah, that might just be a nest.
Yeah, and the same thing like with ghosts. If you find a haunted building and there's a ghost there, you come back to the haunted building a week later and there's still a ghost there. It's not necessarily that any major change has happened, it's just that now you know where they are.
Yeah, common environment.
Yeah. All right. So, conclusions. Do you guys think that now that we've discussed it a little further, has your mind changed at all, or do you still feel like this is a real phenomenon and this sort of thing really does happen with cryptids kind of becoming more common in people's lives after they see the first one?
Well, from the beginning, I did think that it was a thing, and after that UFO or UAP, either one encounter, I'm starting to believe it might be more common for us to see some stuff soon.
Yeah, I'm with you. I certainly have a different approach now when we go out. I don't go out now thinking, well, this is going to be a fun little excursion. We're probably not going to find anything, but at least we get out of the house for a few hours. Now I'm going out thinking, wow, this could be the one.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've always felt that kind of, because we've always seen like little clues here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, those UAPs were just like another clue to me, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but these things happen when you least expect it. With the UFO thing, we talked about this in our other podcast. We didn't expect anything from that, and we found a lot more than we thought.
Yeah.
From other things like posting a video thinking it would perform badly, but performed wonderfully. I mean, those kind of things just happen.
Yeah. Part of the randomness of the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the randomness of the universe if we're talking about UAPs.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's our thoughts on repeated cryptid encounters, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing. And of course, if any of you have had multiple encounters with the supernatural, or even if you've had one encounter with the supernatural, we would love to hear from you. Feel free to post a comment or fill out the anonymous form. Thank you.